Hello everyone and welcome down to episode number 33. I had to check. This is getting out of control down here. Episode number 33 of the Down South Photo Show with me, Brendan Waits, and my good friend down in Hobart who looks a wee bit exhausted. He's been hard at it through workshop over the last few days. Cam Blake in Hobart Town. How are you today, Cameron?
Good, Brendan. G'day. What an absolute dog's breakfast the start of this episode has been, prior to recording and to now. It's
yes.
For our viewers playing at home, you don't need to know. It's been a show in the making, shall we say?
Oh no, but, no. You can tell them. I don't judge me, but I am the worst when it comes to connecting new things to my PC and phones.
Yeah,
and
so for you wonderful loyal listeners and viewers out there, Brendan sent me a message today saying you'll never guess what, huge announcement coming. I'm thinking he's got something amazing to announce. He announced that he had a new webcam that put him in the 16:9 ratio.
Yes.
So before this, we started recording. On we come. Brendan's looking good. Can't hear him properly. Can't get the sound right. Something's not syncing. Headphones aren't working. So 15 minutes later, we're back to 4:3.
Yes.
And away we go. And then you forgot what episode it is.
Correct.
You're having a cracker.
16:9 can get stuffed. I don't. It's whatever. Like
That's so 2021. 16:9.
It is. We've moved on. It's 16. Yeah. It's 4:3 all the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hashtag Team 4:3.
Hashtag. Yes. You won't get many hashtags, I don't think.
No.
But I'm good, mate. Yeah, a little bit worn out. Done a few last 5 days up in the Tarkine.
Yes.
Been a bit tired.
We're going to talk about your week in the Tarkine as one of our subjects tonight, which will be interesting.
Yes.
I will do what I normally do, and that is thank everyone for liking, subscribing, following, all that sort of stuff. Can't let the intro go without mentioning last week's show, the Ben Horn interview.
Yes.
Been very, very well received. Thank you very much for everyone who's listened, for everyone who's popped over to Ben Horn's channel or Instagram or whatever and had a look and said g'day and all that sort of stuff. I'm sure he greatly appreciates it.
Yeah, that was awesome. And everyone, all the feedback, like I said, has been really good. The feedback I've got from that episode is exactly the feedback we got ourselves, really, after talking to Ben. Is just how much of a genuinely nice guy he seemed to be, and loved his photography, and people are just mesmerised by the work he does. So that was awesome. Hopefully our next guest can live up to that.
Well, the next guest is locked away, and as per par for the course for the Down South Photo Show, we're not telling you who it is until a little bit later.
Yes,
we'll keep you guessing, but big name in the Australian photographic industry, wouldn't you say, Cam?
Doesn't get much bigger than him.
Oh, holy smokes! Watch out. Probably won't have to do this one at bull dust o'clock either.
No, their time zone is a little bit more user friendly,
as in the same as ours. So that's a win.
Yeah. So there's a bit of a hint for people. He or she is East Coast Australia.
Ooh, there you go.
Or maybe Papua New Guinea.
True. Or Japan. Could be. You never know. We reach far and wide on the Down South Photo Show. Moving right along, our backgrounds, mine's useless because we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, so bad luck because I'm terrible at technology. I've got my...
Good.
It's still a nice photo, isn't it?
You're still at Port Fairy. You've been there for a month.
I have. That's right. I need to move on from... Here we go. There you go. I'll give everyone a look. I mean, again, people in cars and in headphones and stuff can't see it, but there you go. Do
you reckon the people driving are going... I can't see his background.
Can't see it. Get out of the way, Brendan. And leading into our first main topic this week, I want to talk about your background, Cam.
Yes, my background is from the amazingly stunning, incredible, mind-blowing Tarkine region. This is a spot called Sarah Ann Rocks. Funny story. We had you go on your workshops and you tell people stories about where you are, where you're going, what you're doing, and stuff like that. And of course, every time we go to Sarah Ann Rocks behind me here, which is part of the Tarkine West Coast, someone says, "Where does Sarah Ann get its name from?" So we had a lovely guest on my workshop, a repeat customer, whose name happened to be Anne, and I'm going to dob her in for this. So we had a co-pilot swap in the bus. Everyone sort of had to go at co-pilot with me up the front. And Anne sort of took on the lead role of informative guide, telling people all the stats and facts and figures and things like that of the Sarah Ann Rocks. And she came up with this Google search about where Sarah Ann Rocks got its name from. And I'm driving along, dodging these little animals in the night time on the way back, and she's telling us all about how a ship named Sarah Ann took off from a certain place in Tassie and shipwrecked, and all the possessions were all over the rocks and stuff like that. And she's like, and that's how Sarah Ann got its name, Sarah Ann Rocks. And I'm like, that doesn't ring true to me at all. That's not what I remember. And I've been telling people a completely different story about what these rocks name is. And I was telling them that it was about, there was meant to be a lady that was a watercolour painter who used to paint these rocks a lot. So anyway, everyone in the group was like, well, you've just been, what else have you told us is not true, Cam, for the last 5 days? Like, what have you been telling us? So for the next day, as we were getting there, it was in the back of my head. Anyway, I finally got time to stop driving and do a bit of a Google search on the way home. And Sarah Ann Rocks is named after Sarah Ann Fogg, who is a watercolour artist, painter, who lived well before the Sarah Ann shipwreck, which was on the east coast of Tasmania, not on the west coast. So
in your face, Anne.
Yeah, Anne. And by the way, Anne, if you're listening, you left your drink bottle in the bus.
Right, well.
So
surely there's another way you can contact Anne and let her know that. Just on the pod, that's fine.
Everything goes via the podcast. So yeah, but these are amazing spot. They're part of the rugged coastline. It's an incredible spot. We had a great time. The weather was probably too sunny for a lot of the foresty shots we usually get, but we had a couple of hours of overcast and got some nice stuff there, and went on a beautiful river cruise down the Pieman River out to the Pieman Heads, right onto the west coast of Tassie. So yeah, we had a great time, really good group of people, lots of laughs, lots of fun. We actually listened to the Ben Horn podcast in the bus. They forced me to put it on. I didn't want to listen to myself talking.
Wow.
But that was given a run. And yeah, it was great. We had a really good time and got some beautiful photos, and yeah, made some good friends, and yeah, back here, but a bit tired, and usually have a day or two off afterwards before I start getting back into things.
Now, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is 5 days? 4 days, 5 days.
5 days in total, 4 nights, 5 days.
Okay, so and each morning it's up early for the sunrise?
Well, that's the funny thing, or the tricky thing with the West Coast, because you're on the West Coast, you don't get too many spots where you can get sunrise from, but we do sunrise. I think we did 3 or 4 sunrises, but what we do is we tend to go, there's another town called Stanley, which is a very, very popular little tourist town with the big geological rock, the big nut it's called, and you can get a couple of different angles of that at sunrise. And then there is also a spot in the Tarkine forest that if you get a real misty, sort of foggy morning, you get this beautiful river running through the forest, you can take a photo of as well. So yeah, we sort of generally have at least 3 or 4 sunrises, maybe a morning off to sleep in, but we definitely get every sunset, because you're on the West Coast, you get all that beautiful afternoon light and into the evening.
Well, you've definitely captured some good blue hour light behind you there.
Yes, absolutely. This was about 10 minutes after sunset.
Yep.
So it was pretty good.
For newcomers to the channel, blue hour, what are we talking about when we talk about blue hour, Cam?
Blue hour? Well, blue hour is the time after the sun hits below the horizon. You get those beautiful sort of gradients of colours, purples, blues, sometimes a little bit of red still in the sky as well. But it's usually, I don't know, usually it's about 20 minutes from sunset onwards. You get this beautiful sort of soft light afterwards, and it's, there's no actual direct sunlight. It's all the sun bouncing off the atmosphere above you, below the horizon. So you get this beautiful even spread of light and colour. You tend to get really nice pastel-y colours as well. You don't get that real vibrant colour. So yeah, most people think that, if you're doing sunset or sunrise, because it happens before sunrise as well, a lot of people think that once the sun goes down, that's it, you pack your gear up and you're done. But we always hang around until just before you can just stop seeing your hand in front of your face and it gets a bit dark. So don't pack up early is the tip there, or get up earlier for sunrise. Yeah,
well, you can see actually, and again, sorry for those people listening not watching, but the difference between my background, which is at golden hour, and your background, which is at blue hour. So a lot more, my photo's a lot more contrasty. You can see the light there on the waves and stuff like that, whereas Cam's has a much more even spread of light, like it's almost been filtered to make it nice and soft. There's no shadows per se, no definite shadows and that sort of stuff. So blue hour can be awesome. And you're right what you say there, because I've been guilty of it myself. Oh, sun's gone down. See ya.
Yeah. Yeah. I find as well, and I used to be exactly the same, and I found that I'd pack up and be back at the car, and I'd be like, geez, that light's good. Like, why did I leave? And
That's right.
I think, in my experience, like, I don't know about everyone else's, but I find that I used to do that. If I was a little bit off the beaten track a bit, I'd be like, I've got to get back to the car before it gets dark for safety. So you're more worried about that kind of thing. But, if you just hang around an extra 10 minutes, have a head torch with you, you're generally okay anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, if you can, obviously safety first. But if you can hang around until it does really, 15, 20 minutes after the sun's gone down, you'll certainly get, if it's been a nice sunset, you'll definitely get this sort of purpley blue hour afterwards as well.
Which naturally leads me to the point that modern day digital cameras, being more sensitive, so they've got better sensors and they're more sensitive, you can shoot at higher ISOs and still get a clean image, are now useful during blue hour.
Yes.
Whereas once upon a time, you'd lose a light really quick, and you don't have the range in your camera to be able to capture these shots. So you can actually shoot handheld once the sun's gone down for quite some time now, particularly with your artist formerly known as Olympus gear. That can work quite well, because it's got 4 million stops of image stabilization or something, hasn't it?
Yeah, it does. They only stop making the image stabilization go more because the Earth rotates and they can't justify it.
That's right.
But you're right. But you're right. Yeah, there is. You generally get. There was some people on the workshop here that had Olympus, and there was a few hand holding shots.
Yep.
Getting about half a second exposures. I did a couple of 2-second exposures with the Olympus. I did this one on a tripod because I could tell this was going to be a fairly nice scene, so I made sure I had the tripod and used a fairly slow shutter speed just to get the waves to blur in the background and things like that. So, yeah, but blue hour is a big one, and just that extra 10-15 minutes hanging around, and sometimes you go, like, if you're worried about getting back to where you got to get to. I generally get my bag packed as much as I can before the sun goes down, knowing what lens I'm going to use. So when you are finished, it's literally camera in a bag, tripod, away you go. You don't have to sort of fuddle around doing stuff. So be prepared. Predict what's going to happen, and don't forget your head torch.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're sort of branching off in tangents tonight, but that's totally cool. When it comes
totally normal.
Totally normal. When it comes to handheld shots, image stabilization aside and pushing the limits of your camera aside, do you have a magic shutter speed where you go, not a magic, but a shutter speed in your mind where you go, nah, tripod time? Is there a...
Yeah, I do. For me, with the image stabilization and the Olympus, I reckon it's about half a second for me.
Yep.
Where I think I'm confident that I can hold half a second and get some pretty good shots. I did actually do some shots last time on a workshop here of some coastal shots where I actually used some of the inbuilt neutral density filters on the camera, and I actually handheld a couple of seconds of this water running over this rock, and I was really quite impressed with that.
Yeah.
But I still try and get the tripod as much as I can. So I usually about half a second for me, and I'm like, okay, I'm not confident that I can do any longer than that without some shake.
There are people right now screaming at their phones and in their stereos in their cars going, what, half a second, are you kidding me? And that's because Cam does shoot with a system that allows him to handhold for longer because of that image stabilization system. But also what Cam's got going and what I've got going for me as well is we shoot at such wide angles as well, and quite often that can mask a little bit of blur. It might be there, and sometimes when you enlarge right up, you might pick it slightly. But because generally speaking, you're never going to do that with the image. You're showing the whole image off. You're not going to pick it up. So for me, it is about 1/30th of a second. When I just go, I'll chuck this on a tripod now. Well, because I don't have a steady hand at the best of times.
Yeah, well, there's the old rule as well that you try and match your shutter speed to your focal length. So if you're shooting at 30 mil, you try and shoot at 30th of a second, or if you're shooting even wider at 10 or 18 mil, you might get 15th of a second. But again, like I said, you add a few extra stops on there for the image stabilizer, and about a half a second's where I'm comfortable. But having said that, if I shoot on something that doesn't have image stabilizer, then I've actually got my one of my cameras you can actually set up for it to shoot at twice what the ISO, twice what the focal length is. So if you're using a 50mm lens, it'll only let you shoot at 100th of a second or more, or
That's
faster.
pretty cool.
Yeah, so you don't get that handshake. But yeah, a lot of times with those cameras, they're on the tripod pretty early. But yeah, the OMD, formerly known as the Olympus, it's pretty impressive. And I actually got to play with the new OM1 on the weekend. Not mine and not given to me, but one of my customers had one, brand new, literally picked it up 4 o'clock the night before he flew into Tassie, and had a play with it. And I can tell you, folks, if you're interested in the OM1, viewfinder is magic, screen is incredible, autofocus is very, very responsive, and everything's quick, like real quick. The processing is really quick. So I wasn't sure if I was going to get an OM1, but
You might be swayed.
I think I might be. So, but anyway, yeah, it was a great trip. We had a great time. Beautiful weather, nice food, lots of laughs. Yeah, it was good. It was good fun.
And you say the weather was almost too good.
Yeah, we usually, like that northwest coast of Tassie usually gets a lot of rain most of the year round. You know, get the rains over 300 days a year. But we didn't get any rain. We had a little bit of cloud, or we had a cloudy day one day, and the rest of them were just beautiful mornings. We sort of tried to time our forest stuff early or late afternoon. But yeah, it was a bit tricky, to be honest, like trying to get into the forest, because the forests are a big draw card of this workshop, and we still got some beautiful shots, but the coastal one really stood out. The coastal spots really stood out in this workshop.
That's landscape photography, though, right? I mean, that's
it.
That's the learnings that your students
Yeah.
on the trip would have taken away. That you know, it's like when you go fishing, you're never sure what you're going to catch, and
Yeah, that's right.
landscape photography is exactly the same.
Yeah, and I think people picked up on that. It's like, well, we're here, we're in the location we want to be. It's not great weather for forests, but you know, we started talking about more abstract stuff and black and white. You know, doing some black and white forest stuff and things like that. So there's a lot of conversations that went around where people are like, oh, okay, I would never have thought of that. You know, yes, we're here. Okay, it's a beautiful forest, but it's not wet and it's not moist and it's not raining, or you know, what do we do? It's like, well, there's plenty of shapes and patterns and abstracty things you can shoot. You can shoot black and white, you know, you can shoot up, you can shoot down, you know. So we made it work. But yeah, it's a beautiful spot, the Tarkine. And actually today there's been a pretty big announcement about the Tarkine, because it's completely unprotected. It's not a national park or anything like that. There's logging and mining all around the borders. But they've just found a new section of Hue and Pine in the Tarkine, which if it's been verified, but it's now going to be classed as one of the most northern sections of Hue and Pine trees in Tasmania. Usually they're quite south, and they've rated them at 3,000 or 4,000 years old. There's actually like a big chunk of them, which they didn't realise are there. So that's a really good thing in regards to trying to protect that region, because you know, they're a pretty special tree. So that's just been announced today. So that's exciting.
That's very cool. Very cool. And you've got heaps of photos out of the Tarkine, so you've captured that area very, very well. So it's good. I'm stoked to hear that. That's really cool, because by the time I get down there, which will be
5,000-year-old trees,
2038 or something, I'd like it still to be there. That would be awesome.
Well, aren't we running a Tassie workshop this year sometime?
So it's going to happen. Depends on how many thumbs up and likes and comments we get below to do it, and then, you know, one of those, hey? Yes, one of those.
I'll get my mates to like it.
Speaking of weather, which you were, shout out to our friends up north. Holy smokes, are you doing it tough with your rain? It's and the floods, and it's unbelievable.
It's nuts, isn't it?
Absolutely crazy.
We had a few people from New South Wales in the workshop. And as the workshop continued on, they're like, oh, our power's gone off. Oh, this is happening. Oh, we can't get on our road. Oh, we can't get home. We don't know what's going on. Like in a matter of 3 days, I went from a little bit of rain to not being potentially able to get home. So they were staying on in Tassie a couple of days longer, so that was lucky. But yeah, it's crazy amount of rain.
Yeah, and keeping it within the photographic industry, special shout out to the guys, owners and managers of Lismore Camera House. It's actually known as the New Camera House, but I think it used to be called the Lismore Camera House. But got completely flooded, like underwater flooded for the second time in 5 years. And you can't get flood insurance in Lismore. So John, his name is, who owns the camera house there, basically doesn't have a business anymore, which is bloody sad. Take it from me, I know how hard it is to run a store like that. And he literally lost probably 1.2 mil worth of gear, plant and equipment, stock, all that sort of stuff. Most of it's now sitting out on his footpath, completely destroyed. So just horrible. C.R. Kennedy's office in Brisbane got flooded as well. So a lot of people within our industry doing it tough up there. So shout out to you guys. And it looks like the rain has stopped finally, but
apparently there's more coming though.
Yeah, well, that's not good. Not good at all.
Not good. So. It's been incredible. Yeah, that's terrible news. And I was just talking to someone today about it in New South Wales. We all have this, Queensland, Victoria, New South Wales. We all have these little rivalries, and you don't ever expect the worst from people. But New South Wales have had their fair share of crap over the last year and a half with COVID lockdowns, and then they've had the floods as well, and they've also had some bushfires and. So thoughts with those guys, and hopefully on to bigger and better things once they get it all cleaned up.
Yeah, it's a real bummer, and it's funny. And I don't see this as a coincidence at all. In the last week, I have had a massive spike in people coming in and scanning their old photos.
You reckon maybe they're worried?
Well, there's people now in parts of Queensland and New South Wales that have lost. Very, very precious memories in terms of printed photographs, which is such a bummer. So there are some techniques you can get to restore them, but some of them are that far gone. They're finished. The emulsion has literally come off the paper.
That's right.
So these images are completely gone. So I don't know why I wanted to bring that up. That's a bit of a bummer. But anyway, that's the world in which we live at the moment.
It can be an important topic as well, making sure your photos are all backed up. That's probably another complete episode there about how to store your images. And, the thought just went through my head then. I'm sitting at my computer, I've got a few hard drives in front of me. I'm like, if that happened here, I'll be unplugging them in a hurry and taking off out the door. But,
that's why, just a quick little tip, using the cloud is so important now. And I've got a couple of accounts on the cloud where my images sit, copies the full version of the images, even some of the unedited raw files sit on the cloud now, so that if, touch wood, that should happen here in sunny Ocean Grove where we get a bit of a flood or a tsunami or something, God forbid, everything will be safe in terms of
Hopefully.
the photos.
Everything else.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's a bummer.
Sorry, man.
That's for sure.
Anyway.
It's just crap, isn't it?
It is.
Mother Nature, we talk about climate change and all those things, and, you can be a skeptic or you can be a believer, whatever, but things are changing. You can't deny.
If there's anything good to come out of it from a landscape photography point of view, and that is the waterfalls are pumping. I have seen some photos.
We went to visit a waterfall here in the Tarkine. Doesn't run. Not running. First time I've ever seen it not running. There wasn't a trickle coming down it.
Wow.
It's crazy. They said it's the driest they've seen the Tarkine in about 35 years.
There you go, polar opposites, huh? But that can change really quickly, as we know. I wanted to, moving right along, folks, I wanted to just quickly talk about digital SLR cameras in particular, or mirrorless cameras, and their sensors and how dirty they can get, because what's been going on lately as well at the shop is I've had a bit of a spike in people coming in and getting their sensors cleaned. Now, what does that mean to the average punter out there? If you're ever taking photos, so let's have a look, say, for example, the photo behind Cam there, where he's got a lot of that blue sky area, and is particularly shooting at high aperture values, so small opening, high aperture value. Quite often, what can happen is you'll get these little smudges in the sky. Looks like, I don't know, almost like literally like a bit of dirt or dust or something like that. You can't quite see it focused, but it's like a little black smudge. Now, what you're looking at there is dust on your sensor. And I don't care what brand of camera you own, and I don't care how good they tell you their sensor cleaning system is.
Be careful on that.
I have seen pretty much every brand and pretty much every camera with dust on the sensor since I ran camera and photo. The other day, I had two Canon 6D Mark IIs owned by the same photographer come in,
Yeah.
I could not get over how much dust was on the sensor. You can't see it until you shoot. What you can do if you really want to see how clean your sensor is just set your mode dial to aperture priority and dial up the highest aperture you can, normally f22, something like that, and take a photo of a white wall. Now, you'll probably end up having to do like a half a second or a 1 second exposure. It doesn't matter. You can shoot it handheld. In fact, sometimes it's better to shoot it handheld because a little bit of movement will actually show you the dust on the sensor a lot more. You may very well be surprised how much dust is actually on your sensor that you don't know is there.
Yeah. Well, funny you say that about the picture behind me, because I did spend a few minutes getting rid of some dust spots. But
Yep.
I will admit, and this is not me being an Olympus, formerly known as OMD, whatever we call them these days, fanboy, I have never, ever had a single issue with my Olympus cameras and dust spots, ever. Full stop. Because they have the vibrating sensor that turns on and off when you turn the camera off and supposedly dust shake. The Leica camera I'm using, which I very rarely change lens on, has dust spots every time.
Yep.
So you, Brendan, here's a question for you without notice. So,
Yep.
dear Brendan,
Yeah.
my Leica camera keeps getting dust spots on there, even though I'm not changing lenses. How do the dust spots get in there?
Generally speaking, there's a lot of cameras that claim to be weather sealed. But depending on which lens you use, the lens also has to have weather sealing on it. But even then, I've seen, so for example, I know Canon with their L series lenses claim to be weather sealed. The issue you've got with a lens is you have moving parts. The lens actually breathes, if you like. So even when you focus, the lens elements are moving in and out away from each other.
Yes.
That is causing a little vacuum inside the lens, which sucks dust inside, sucks air inside your camera.
Right.
And with that comes the dust. Now, going back to the Canon 6D Mark IIs that I had, she was or still is, a baby portrait photographer. And she's using a 24-70 and she's using a 70-200 a lot. These things, when you twist to zoom in and out, they're just, you can almost, if you put your hand on the end, you can actually feel a little bit of suction when you zoom in and out. So that's where her issue was. And she was shooting indoors a lot. You wouldn't even know that it was a dusty environment, but she was saying to me that she's pretty much got to bring me the cameras every probably 6 months to have them cleaned properly. Look, you can buy sensor cleaning kits and you can do it yourself. No worries at all.
I do mine.
Yep.
But I do it with a hell of a lot of caution.
Yeah. So something like a blower brush or something like that, and the sensor cleaning kits are there. But it is really, really easy to scratch the low pass filter that goes across in front of your sensor. There's Cam holding up his exposed sensor right there. That makes me nervous just looking at it.
That's actually a shutter plane.
Oh, that's okay then. Good. Right. Couldn't quite see it.
That's another reason why I don't know how the dust gets in here, because it's protected by a shutter plane.
Yeah,
anyway.
But the shutter curtain mechanism itself isn't weather sealed either. So, but when it's exposed, of course, there's a static charge to the sensor as well, so that attracts dust. So
yes, that's a good point. I've actually learned something from that thing, Brendan.
That's all right. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, I really have. I was on my head after I was doing this photo and a few others, I had some dust spots on them. Like, but I didn't change the lens for the entire workshop. I left that on there.
Yep.
How is that dust getting in? They are weatherproof to a point, these little Leicas, but something's getting in there. But
and while I agree with you, Olympus do have a very, very good.
I've never had that problem.
Yep, they do have a very, very good system. I have had to clean. A few Olympuses. Olympuses. Is it Olympuses? Olympi.
Olympus is it's OMDs. OMD.
Well,
I also had the Fuji with the medium format sensor, and that also had a some sort of vibrating sensor cleaning thing on it. Yeah. But that also bigger sensor, like almost 3 times the size of full frame, that was pretty good. But again, that was when I first started noticing, because I've been using Olympus for so long. I had a bit of a play with the Fuji and the Leicas, and all of a sudden I'm like, where are these dust spots? I've never had this problem before.
And that's the other advantage. other advantage you've got with Olympus, of course, is they have the smaller sensor area, so you're less inclined to attract dust over a micro 4/3 sensor.
So I now feel for the rest of the plebs, the ones that were using the lesser brands, as to what they've been putting up with for all these years. Yeah. But
can we just reiterate one more time that the Down South Photo Show is not sponsored by any camera manufacturer whatsoever.
We're not sponsored by anything, and we won't get sponsored if I keep hanging shit on all of them.
Fair point.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway,
we're going to sponsor ourselves. This episode's sponsored by Taz Photo Workshops.
It is. Look at that.
A pathway to better photography.
I haven't even got my own merch on today, but we'll come back to that in a second.
Yeah, I like that T-shirt.
You do?
Yeah, okay. It's lovely.
All right, well, we'll come back to that.
Anyway, moving back
so
the
last
cleaning.
word on sensor cleaning. Yes, as I said, you can do it yourself, but if you, it can be fraught with danger. It's a little bit too easy to scratch a low pass filter, which is the glass that's. You're not actually cleaning the sensor, because you can't. But it does have. There's what's called a low pass filter that sits over the front of your sensor that you're actually cleaning. That's where the dust gets attracted to. And there's two kinds of dust. There is dust, and then there's welded dust. You ever heard that saying before?
No, I thought there was two. I knew there was like black dust and white dust.
Yeah, so welded dust is a real issue. Not so far, not as much down south where we are, but certainly up in the tropics. Humidity and dust with a sensor. Ugh. So if the dust sits on a sensor for too long, and it's like humidity in the air, just a tiny bit of moisture in the air, it actually gets bonded to the filter. And then you need to do a wet clean on your sensor, and you do not attempt those at home, folks. You take them to professional camera cleaning places.
When you clean sensors, is your one that you do with a spray and a little wiper? No. Do you do it the same?
No.
Okay, so do you use it like an air pressure thing?
Correct. So the first step of cleaning a sensor is to use the blower brush, or just a blower, not a blower brush, a blower. And that's where you can.
One of those?
Correct. That is a rocket blower. That's what we use down at Camera and Photo. Where you basically, so all cameras have a sensor cleaning mode. So you go into the menu, you go to clean sensor manually. It'll lock the shutter open. You do exactly what Cam's doing there. You hold it upside down, and you do not get that nozzle too close. You just need a little bit of air blowing across. I also have a loop, which is an eyepiece that I can put right up, and it magnifies the sensor for me as well.
This is a pre-plane. Is that a loop?
Yeah, sort of. That can be used as but mine's got a built-in LED ring light, which actually illuminates the sensor as well, so you can see the dust really well. And if the blower doesn't knock it out, then I use Lens Pen's product, which is it's called a Sensor Clear, which is a tiny little lens pen, which you put on there and basically knock the dust off that way. Before all that, I do the sensor photo, so I can show the customer a before and after. We take a photo of the white wall, we show them where the dust is, we clean the sensor, we do the photo again, and we show them before and after. The reason we do that is because sometimes after we've done a clean, it can happen where dust reappears quite quickly. That's because some cameras have little areas around the mirror box, which are also statically charged. The dust, as we're getting it off, it gets attracted to it because the camera's turned on. As soon as you turn the camera off and you hand it back to the customer, it can release and sometimes end up back on the sensor. And if that happens, we just tell the customer to bring it back in and we do it again, so at no charge. So.
So do you clean sensors for free, or do you charge for that service?
No. So we charge because there's labour, there's time involved. It's $49 to clean a sensor. We also offer a package where it's $99, where we will clean your sensor and the body of the camera and any lenses you own as well.
Right.
Up to 3 lenses. So, and when I say clean, we really go to town on filters and the end lens elements. We clean them properly using proper materials to clean it, not the beautiful hairy tog t-shirt and like that a lot of I've been guilty. We've all been guilty of, I'm sure.
Yes.
We don't just go and get the old spit and polish.
$99, thanks.
Yeah, that's right. And look, if people just come in for a sensor clean, we can normally tick that box in a couple of hours. But the full system clean, we'd like to hang onto a camera for about 3 days. So
so it's not $99 and a dose of COVID on the front of your lens.
No, that's right.
It's a proper clean.
That's exactly right. Yes.
So just I'll chip in. I was going to say, so I guess our recommendation to people at home is, if you've got a blower brush, and like I said, these blower brushes you can buy from any camera shop pretty cheap.
Yep.
You can give it a go at home, and like I said, the cameras all have sensor modes where you can do a blank shot, so to speak, and get the dust to show. So we'd suggest if you can, try and give it a bit of a blow brush at home before you take it into someone. But some people, sensors are one of those things that people are very, very, very sensitive, pun intended,
I like
about the sensor. So, if you're not sure, take it to someone professional who knows what they're doing.
Yeah, and just throw back to your earlier point, if I come across welded dust, in other words, it needs a wet clean, I hand it back to the customer, no charge, and then give them a recommendation of where they should take it. We don't have a sealed laboratory where we can clean things that professionally. Sad news though, where we used to send everyone, Camera Clinic is no longer.
They're closed down. Another one bites the dust.
Absolutely unbelievable. I mean, I was actually floored by that news. This is a business that's been going for 50 years.
I was almost going to send one of my second bodies there to get transferred. What's the word? Converted into infrared, but now I might have to send it to a place in the States to get it done.
Yeah, well, they had Australia's leading infrared converter working for Camera Clinic. Amazing. So, geez, that's two bummers in this episode. Sorry, guys. Well, let's try and lift the thing.
Yeah, what are you doing? I reckon our next topic's going to raise the spirits a bit.
Yeah, well, I gave a talk 2 nights ago at a local retirement village. And it was funny because, you think retirement village, what does that conjure up, Cam?
Yeah.
What do you think? You're thinking Zimmer frames, you're thinking people falling asleep.
I wasn't going to say any of that. I was going to say a bunch of really good people wanting to learn stuff.
Sure you were. I know John is listening. Hello, John. I didn't tell him I'd give him a shout out, but I will anyway. John and Shane at the retirement village that I went to, the Breeze in Point Lonsdale, were very, very, very kindly invited me along to talk about my absolute favourite topic in the world, me. So that was cool. I got to stand there.
By the look of it, turned into a conversation about me.
Correct. The Down South Photo Show was mentioned a couple of times, which was fantastic. And
excellent.
I just basically talked to them about my journey in landscape photography and then my journey into doing it as a living, as a profession, which for some reason they found riveting, except for one guy that actually did fall asleep. It was very, very funny. We all made a big noise to wake him up. That was very funny. And then I did an impromptu workshop, about just a 15-minute little workshop about landscape composition, which went over really well. We had about 30 people in the room, so it was cool. Really enjoyed it. They enjoyed it. And then at the end, they normally give their presenters a bottle of wine, and they found out that I'm not a huge wine drinker. Yeah, and then they gave me a little T-shirt that they had organised with Cam, which is, for those who can't see, it's the Get to the Chopper Hairy Tog T-shirt. So as soon as this show's over, this will go in the bin. But there you go, it's for one show at least.
Disclaimer, it's not a little T-shirt, it's a large, by the way.
And thanks for getting me a black one.
Yeah, well, I wasn't sure what colour you'd want. The pink ones are selling well, but I thought the black one would be good. Black for you.
Black hides a lot. People know what I'm talking about.
Exactly. So let's get to the Chop of the Hairy Tog, and that's Cradle Mountain in the background there. And, I was emailed by John. I think it was John that emailed me and said, "Hey, what can we do?" And I said, "Let me just send you something for Brendan."
No, you're exactly right. It was John. He's
yes.
John's a good guy. He as I say, he organised it, and it was awesome. So thank you for that, John.
Wear it with pride, mate. You're now part of the Hairy Tog Club.
Absolutely, I'll wear it with pride for the next 15 minutes. No worries.
It's not a unique club, and some people don't like to be a part of that club. But now that you're in there,
it's a good. What's this? Once you're in, you can't get out, sort of things. It's the hotel California.
It is a bit like that. I've actually recruited someone from my Tarkine workshop into the Hairy Tog Club, and they're getting a T-shirt tomorrow.
Oh, really?
So, and we were talking about actually just to, as we go off as we always do.
Oh no, this tonight's show is completely off the rails, so go for it.
Yeah, you're not even 16 by 9, mate. So, on the workshop, I was talking about this idea I've got, which I'm going to announce coming up this year sometime, about a series of workshops I'm looking to do. And I thought it'd be really cool to give someone something at the end of each workshop that they can sort of not collect, but tick off that they've done this certain thing. And a few people are thinking like, oh, don't do that. Don't make merchandise, or don't give people stuff that they have to wear, because then it becomes a competition. Or people like camera clubs, people at camera clubs like, oh, I've done this, but you haven't done this type of thing. And I said, well, they said, then you're part of a club, or you're part of a group or a part of a clan, or you're a bit of a groupie for that photographer. I'm like, oh, okay, point taken. Thanks for the feedback. But I was talking to this other guest, and I said, well, I'll give you a Hairy Tog t-shirt, because it's one of those in jokes where people don't really know what the Hairy Tog's all about. But if you see someone else wearing that t-shirt, it's like you give them a wink, what's going on. It's like that Fight Club. Don't talk about Fight Club, and first rule of Fight Club is don't talk about Fight Club. It's a bit like that with the Hairy Tog. So
absolutely. Well, again, I feel privileged to have a Hairy Tog t-shirt in my arsenal, and I shall wear it with pride, and it will pop up on the Down South Photo Show. And it's just absolutely uncanny that you use the phrase Fight Club, because I just wanted to sneak in a quick story that I learnt during the week. Right. Which I read the story and went, I've got to talk about this on the show. And look, some of you might already know this story, but back in 1971, so we're going back a little bit. This is before Cam and I walked the earth, so this is a little bit before our time.
Just before yours.
There was a boxing match that that happened in, I believe it was Las Vegas, because that's where all the big fights happened. And it was between Joe Frazier and the greatest of all time, Muhammad Ali. Cam's going, what the hell are you going with this story, Brendan? What has this got to do with photography? And anyway, being in Las Vegas, there's a lot of casinos there, and there was a certain gentleman by the name of Frank Sinatra that was performing at a nearby...
Old Blue Eyes.
Old Blue Eyes. It was performing at a nearby casino, and Frank Sinatra, believe it or not, could not get a ticket to this Ali Frazier fight, which you would think is ridiculous, but it was completely sold out. He'd get ringside, wouldn't he? Surely. So Frank Sinatra decided, for one night only, he would be a photographer for Time Life magazine, and got a press pass. And not only did he get ringside seats, he had his camera there, and I'm looking at it now. It looks like an old Nikon, and I'm going to throw the photos up on the screen. And he took photos of the fight, and lo and behold, got the cover of Time Life magazine.
Really?
Absolutely.
That's a true story?
That is a 100% true story. And I'm looking at it now, Life magazine, cover photography by Frank Sinatra. How about that?
Did he get the cover because he was Frank Sinatra?
See, now this is the thing, isn't it? This is the thing, because I'm looking at the photo, and I know I've seen better photos of that fight, but he has the cover, and it's what a quirk! Like I just found that story amazing.
How did you come about that story?
I have no idea. I was down the rabbit hole on some photography website, and it came up, and I just went, I don't know that many people would know that story, but it's quite
pretty
amazing.
Cool.
Yeah. So
right, well there you go. So fame and fortune doesn't also always get you front row tickets.
No, that's right. But for one night only, he was a press photographer.
But being a photographer does.
Do you reckon there was like an actual sports photographer next to him? Now listen, Frank, what you do is here's the settings. He got it all right for him. Said you just point and shoot,
he's
buddy.
Got the camera pointing the wrong way. Yeah, here's your settings. Possibly.
How many selfies do you reckon were done with Frank that night before the selfie was even a thing? There must be some.
There'd be a few.
Yeah.
Be tricky back then, but that's a cool story.
Yeah, okay. Just thought I'd throw it in there for something a little bit different. If you have got a wacky... we'll come up with this. Might be a segment.
Another segment. Wacky, historic photos, topics.
Try and top that one. Wonder if we can get Frank on the down... Sorry, we'll move right along. Let's talk about...
We could get Muhammad... okay.
Yeah. Let's go with dear...
Another bummer.
Yeah. Let's go... We have... My goodness, it's already 45 minutes into the show. We have a... It's probably not quite that much since I've been recording my audio. the segment you all know and love, folks. Dear Cam, it's back for another week. Dear Cam, you ready for this one, Cam?
Yeah, I got a feeling this is a doozy.
Dear Cam, this is from our friend Alison. Hello, Alison. Thank you for tuning in.
Alison.
I was watching a YouTube clip of Jamie Rosencrans. Heard of that person, Cam? I'm not familiar, but I'm going to look her up. I was watching a YouTube clip of Jamie Rosencrans on macro photography, and she said she uses extension tubes on her Olympus 60mm macro lens sometimes. Can you please tell me more about what extension tubes are and how to use them, if they are worth it, and when to use them? Now, being predominantly a show about landscape photography, but we do quite often talk about the macro world, the landscape within the landscape.
Okay, so we don't have to answer this question.
Well, I've never used them. What about you?
No. Okay. That's a tricky one.
Okay.
I have used macro extension tubes, or I have used extension tubes in general, but that was back in more of the film days. I had some extension tubes for my old Olympus. Now, my understanding of the extension tubes, I think you don't necessarily have to use them with a macro lens. They can fit any lens, and they do come in. I think they're like 20mm, 50mm, and 60mm, or whatever they are, in different increments of size and distance that they create. But my understanding is that they allow you to work closer to or work further back from a subject, but still get the same magnification. I think they also help increase the magnification onto your sensor or onto your film. So if you're shooting at the 60mm macro lens and you want to go greater than 1:1 macro, then that might be one way to do it. But my understanding was really, and this is just purely off what I used to use them for, was just to be able to shoot, like a normal 50mm lens, but turn it into a macro lens, because you're able to move the actual lens further away from the film plane, so you can actually magnify. You're magnifying things, really.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. And would it all? Yeah. And seriously, like, I don't know anything about this. That's why it's called Dear Cam, folks, and not Dear Brendan. But the does it also help you with your closest focusing distance?
I assume it would.
Yeah.
It would move everything closer without actually being closer. So and I'm just looking at some of Jamie's work now. She's actually an Olympus shooter, Olympus ambassador, I believe, and she's got some stunning macro work. Really, really nice stuff.
There you go.
And just having a look at the work she's doing, I'm assuming that the macro extension tube she's using is to be able to have the camera back but get a closer working distance in general.
So like working with insects and things like that, where you don't necessarily want to be right on top of them.
That's right. And I think some of these are also greater than 1:1 macro. I think that you can actually do greater than 1:1. But the 60mm macro lens from Olympus, one of my customers actually uses this religiously. And she does some incredible insects and spider shots in WA. And she uses that 60mm macro lens. It's a really nice little lens, but I'm assuming that having that 60mm macro lens with an extension tube, it's similar to bellows, from what I understand. Bellows, unlike the old cameras we used to use, the more you spread out, then the greater that magnification becomes on the film plane or the sensor. So, so whether or not, getting back to Alison's question, whether or not you need to use them, look, I don't think they're super expensive. They would certainly be cheaper than buying a really smashing macro lens. If you've already got the 60mm macro on the Olympus, I would say that is almost good enough, because I do have that lens and I have done some fungi and macro with the fungi, and it does give you life-size magnification on your sensor. But I think it's not a bad tool to have in the kit. Like I said, I don't think they're expensive. They come in sets of 3. Usually you just buy them as a set. Make sure they fit the micro 4/3 sensor lens mount. But yeah, if that's something you're getting into, Alison, if that's something you really enjoy, if you're already doing it a bit already with the macro lens, then I'd say yes. If you're purely starting out fresh, I would say maybe just try the lens first before you get into the macro extension tubes, because that might slow your process in what you're learning.
Okay, so this is going to really show how naive I am when it comes to using these things. Might be homework for next week, because we're getting a bit late in the show. What's the difference between an extension tube and a teleconverter?
Well, the extension tube has no magnification on it. It is just purely a spacer.
Right. So you're pulling the
You
focal plane away from.
You're making it further away.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's almost like when you do, when you have a torch against the wall and you pull it back and it gets bigger and smaller. Same sort of thing. You're projecting a different size onto the sensor.
Yep.
Where a telephoto actually has a magnification. It actually has an element.
A teleconverter, yeah, that's right. It has an extra group of lenses inside it, doesn't it?
That's right. So it's adding another layer of magnification where the difference with the extension tube is it's extending the lens.
Yeah. Where
the teleconverter is actually extending the magnification, I believe.
It is.
But yes, it may be
adding to the magnification of the lens. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah.
It's multiplying. But yeah, that's a tricky question, Alison. If your next question cannot be that tricky, that would be great.
That's good. I mean, we're all learning here, so
well, I'm learning. I've
just
just discovered a really cool macro photographer.
There you go.
Who does so? Go check out this work.
So all of a sudden, Jamie is on Cam's radar for a guest on the Down South Photo Show at some point.
do we want to try and get Jamie on? She's from London.
Well, look, we've got a fan in Alison, so maybe Alison can grease the wheels for us and make it happen. That would be pretty cool, actually. Yeah. So thanks for that. If you have got a Dear Cam question, please send it to us via the links below, and on all the social media and wherever you find us. And we got that website up there, Cam. It's coming, right?
Yeah, just like 16:9.
True. The day we get the website up is the day that I have my webcam. I was so excited about the webcam. You had to bring it back up again.
And what's the bet when we get a website? It'll be a 4:3 ratio screen.
Yes, we're going to pay homage to my 4:3 setup and to the brand formerly known as Olympus. Geez, we've plugged them a lot tonight.
Who?
Exactly. Well, we're coming towards the end. Cam, what have you got coming up? And I noticed in the notes here you've got some more Tarkine workshops for next year.
Yeah. So what I've got coming up at the moment, next thing I've got on, I'm actually doing a baby shoot on Sunday. I'm shooting a human, which will move and cry and do stuff, drool, spew, whatever it might do.
Right. Watch out for that on your sensor.
Yeah. I got a friend of mine who has had a baby and now turning 1, so I think it's more of a toddler kind of. We're getting into toddler stage. We're going to the botanical gardens to do a quick shoot.
What an awesome age.
But after it is a good age. After that, later in the month, I've got the Southwest Tassie Wilderness Camp. So we fly in on a light plane down a stunning coastline of southern Tasmania. We land, we glamp for 3 days off the grid, and we get access to a pilot and access to a boat driver. Is that what they do? That's where they put all the grog, isn't it? The boat rider. It's a boat driver. And we go out to the Bathurst Harbour and we take photos of all the amazing scenes around there for 3 days. And then we fly back over the mountains back into Hobart. So that's on. But yeah, I've just actually...
Well, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, it sounds terrible. It's sold out. It's sold out. We get 3 days in the wilderness. Everything's done for us, though. We go with a company down here who does all the scenic flights down there. And they've got this amazing bush glamping area where you've got these real glamping tents, double beds, all nestled in amongst all these tea trees right on the edge of this huge harbour, mountain views, the whole thing. It's incredible. And then we go out on the boat and there's dolphins, sea eagles, seals, albatross, all these things. We go explore, which is pretty cool. But when I get back, I got an overland track walk next month, but the Tarkine seems to be one that's really, really popular. I seem to get a lot of people inquiring about that. So I've actually jumped the gun a bit and put a couple on for next year. So May and August. I'm actually going to run them closer to winter, purely on the back of what I just did this week where it's quite dry still. I think the seasons are squashing up a bit. So I want to get these workshops right in the middle of fungi season, right in the middle of all the wet, sort of miserable sort of weather that's come through and dampened the forest up. So they're on my website at the moment. You can go check them out. I limited them to 6 people. It's a great workshop. 4 nights, 5 days. Everything's done for you. Come along. We'll visit this place behind me. You'll be blown away by this place. But that's what I got going on. Honor, how about you? What's going on in the land of camera and photo?
Well, lots. It's a very, very busy time again, which I'm very grateful for. So we're getting a lot of work through the store, which is great. I am interviewing potential new staff members next week, so that'll be good.
I didn't get a reply to my resume.
Finally, See, I just glossed over that. Finally, had a few resumes in, which is great to see that things like that are starting to happen again, because it was getting a bit frustrating being back on the tools on my own the whole time.
Do you look at the resume, and if they have a section down there saying subscribe to Down South Photo Show? Is that
it's the first question in the interview, mate?
Hi, so and so. Welcome. Do you listen or watch? Yeah, of course. You're hired.
It'll just be, tell me what the Down South Photo Show is.
Tell us what the last episode. What was the answer? What was the answer to the last Dear Cam question?
Yeah, that's right, exactly. Yeah. I'm also heading up to the Murray River this weekend, so it's a long weekend here in Victoria. We have the Labor Day long weekend, so
isn't that when you have your golf classic on?
No. That used to be. The first 5 were on the Monday Labor Day. First 5. There's now been 16. So that takes you back. So no, I'm going to head up there and visit some family and friends, and no doubt the camera and the drone will make its way in the kit. So
cool.
Do that for a bit, and then back into it flat out again. So lots going on. To that end, if you are wanting to check out what I do for a living, cameraandphoto.com.au, linked below, jump on, have a look, check out the gallery, order some prints online.
Send him a message.
Say g'day. It's fine.
Send a resume.
Send a resume. Want to come work for me? Do it. We don't care where you are. We'll get you sorted out.
Work from home. Work from home.
New month means a new challenge. So although it's already the 10th of March, look at us go. The Ben Horn show threw us. We were too engrossed in what he had to say, and we decided.
You know what? Everyone that's listened to that's told me, like, how good does he sound on a microphone?
Yeah.
And I said to you today, I said, I sound like shit on a microphone. How does he sound so good and we don't sound so good? But he has got such a great talking voice. You could listen to him talk all day.
No, he does. He also has about $5,000 worth of audio equipment as well to help him. So,
wow, we're not sponsored by Rode.
Not yet. So our challenge for March, inspired by Ben Horn, was abstract landscapes. Cam.
Yeah, I was just thinking, and the reason I did that because I actually put up a post today on my Instagram account, yesterday or today. And I was channeling my inner Ben Horn, because he shoots a lot of very intimate, sort of abstracty landscapes, and he spoke about that a bit on the last episode 32. If you haven't listened to it, link below. No, it's probably on the channel somewhere.
Can we do cards? We can probably, how they do cards. We'll put a card up here if we can.
Do you know how to do that?
Yes.
Yes.
He says as nothing appeared.
Nothing pops up. So now that we've established that Brendan can't put cards up, just go to our channel and episode 32 with Ben Hall. But he does a lot of full frame, abstracty, sort of intimate landscapes, so more detail and texture, and he spoke a lot about that. And that actually inspired me for my trip to the Tarkine. There were some beautiful sand ripples and driftwood and things like that. So this month we are going to do that. We want you to shoot full frame, abstracty, sort of intimate landscapes. So looking more down, or patterns or textures and things like that. I don't know what the hashtag is.
I was going to say, as we speak, Cam is trying to come up with a hashtag for it. What come on, we've got a good. I think we go hashtag abstract landscape. That'll do.
Abstract. I can't spell, but that's all right. Abstract
landscape. Beautiful. Hashtag abstract landscape is our that's hard to say. Abstract landscape is our March challenge. So jump on board. Hit us with a hashtag of abstract. I nearly got it wrong again. Abstract landscape, and
good hashtag.
Get on board.
We can't even pronounce it.
And that's where we'll leave it for episode 33 of the Down South Photo Show. Thanks for joining us. We will see you for episode 34 next week, unless Cam's got anything else to add.
Nothing. Got nothing.
Love it. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you next week. Cheers.
Ciao. See you guys.